Nick and Rick's Pizza. Rules for delivering to Nerissa. Written by TheGeckoWrangler. Found on the Ruleshorror subreddit. Hello, Daryl. We're glad to hear that your last delivery didn't take any unfortunate turns. Things could have easily gotten out of hand quickly with Nerissa, given his unusual cravings. But since all is well, we'll be sending you back to Cribble Rock Run shortly. More specifically, we're sending you to another regular customer of ours from Broken Hand Pond. For what it's worth, this one isn't anywhere near as irritable as Nerissa. She is, however, a tad bit possessive. So as always, we've provided detailed information regarding this customer to help you out. Be sure to read it thoroughly. Customer name, Nerissa. Address, 2991 Champ Lane. Regular order, large Hawaiian pizza, topped additionally with raw clams and oysters. Residence description: small sandy inlet on the northernmost bank of Broken Hand Pond. It's enclosed almost entirely by ferns and willow trees. Numerous shells and small teeth litter the sand. Customer description: Nerissa resembles a beautiful young woman with ghostly pale, olive-covered skin. She wears a long, delicately sewn white gown, and her arms are adorned with several large bracelets. She carries an enormous oyster shell with her wherever she goes, the inside having been so thoroughly polished and glazed that it casts a reflection like a mirror. The girl's long flowing hair is primarily black, though it slowly turns ashy gray at the ends, and her big, brilliantly purple eyes have an inherently friendly look to them. However, nothing else about Nerissa is even remotely human. She has a large set of gills lining the sides of her waist, with several smaller ones running along her cheeks and across her wrists. Her fingernails have sharp, jagged edges, and her flowing white gown is badly torn at the bottom, as though it's been hooked and snagged on countless branches and rocks. Additionally, when Nerissa's in the water, her legs occasionally take on a monstrous form, the long tapering body of a massive eel, patterned brilliantly with white banded stripes across muddy brown scales. More concerning, however, is Nerissa's teeth. Each one of them is surprisingly shark-like, being lined with sharp, serrated edges. Disturbingly enough, there even appears to be an additional set of teeth lining the back of her throat. Rules for delivery. 1. Before leaving for Broken Hand Pond, take a set of earbuds with you from the supply room. They can be quite invaluable around this customer. 2. Remove your name tag before leaving the restaurant. For reasons that should become clear soon, you do not want this customer to know your name. 3. Since you'll have to park on the side of the road once you're close to the inlet, be sure to park on the side opposite the pond. There's a few creatures here that might tamper with your car if it's too close to the water. 4. The ground between the road and Nerissa's inlet is slightly steep and notably rocky. While you certainly don't want to lose your footing here, be especially careful not to cut yourself on the rocks. The smell of blood can make this inlet's inhabitants quite antsy. Given how restless they'll be from your presence alone, you do not want to make the situation worse. 5. Additionally, as you navigate your way down the inlet, be watchful for any rocks that appear to be moist or slick. A fair number of unusually large eels live around this inlet, and they occasionally like to climb around the rocks, weaving and entwining themselves amongst them. The eels are surprisingly good at hiding, but tend to leave a noticeably wet trail as they slide across the ground. Do not get closer to them than necessary. These eels have a nasty bite. 6. Once you reach the inlet, Nerissa will surface near the water's edge. She'll greet you cheerfully, asking if you'd like to swim with her. For more than a few reasons, it's best you don't acknowledge this invitation. 7. Nerissa is extremely charming and very endearing to anyone who meets her. You'll greatly enjoy talking with her as a result. However, it's best you make this delivery as quick as possible. Nerissa has sinister intentions for you. The longer you stay on her beach, the more time she has to act on them. 8. Be particularly watchful for the aforementioned large eels while you're on the shoreline. A few of them will always stay near Nerissa, and those slender brown fish are surprisingly strong, as well as notably clever. They've been known to sneak up on Nerissa's visitors from behind while she talks to them. Once they get close enough, the eels then grab the helpless victims by their ankles and help Nerissa drag them into the pond as they fall. 9. Nerissa is extremely flirty. She'll make more than a few flirtatious remarks, complimenting you as naturally beautiful and a sight for sore eyes. Do the best you can to ignore her. She's trying to distract you so her eels can get behind you. 10. Nerissa will try to encourage you to take your shoes off and step into the shallow part of the pond, claiming that it's extremely refreshing. Again, don't acknowledge this invitation. You'll be an easy victim in the water. 11. Nerissa will regularly hum and sing while you're on her beach. When she does, mentally count to yourself until she stops. This is beyond important. You must keep your thoughts occupied while Nerissa is singing. Her voice has a powerful pull over everyone who hears it. If you don't distract yourself from its melody, you'll be completely entranced. Nerissa can simply just ask you to come into the water at that point. 12. Do not trust anything Nerissa tells you. She will try to earn your trust by giving you advice and information about the pond, claiming to have your best interest in mind. But this isn't quite true. Her only interest is getting you into the water. She'll say anything she thinks might get you into the water, whether that be today or even weeks from now. 13. Avoid staring at Nerissa for prolonged periods. The longer you look at her, the more beautiful she'll seem to be. Eventually, she'll look like the most beautiful person you've ever seen. She's even taken on the appearance of a man before this way. You'll find yourself physically drawn towards her. If that happens, then she'll be quick to act on it. 14. If Rule 2 wasn't warning enough, do not tell Nerissa your name. She will ask for it. Just tell her you have the pizza she ordered, simply saying that you're the delivery driver. She will insist that you give her your actual name, but absolutely do not give it to her. Names have power, and she's one of the few creatures who know how to use that power. 15. Nerissa will be persistent in trying to get your name. She'll probably try to guess it when she realizes you won't give it to her yourself. If she does manage to guess it, do not give her even the slightest hint that she got it right. Your name can't affect you if you don't acknowledge it as your own. 16. To repeat the above rule, do not acknowledge your name if Nerissa says it. There is a chance she's already gotten it from one of our other customers. But even if Nerissa does know what your name is, she can only use it against you if you've actually acknowledged it as your name. But if you do acknowledge it, you won't be able to refuse anything Nerissa says. She'll be able to simply ask you to walk into the pond, and you won't be able to resist it. 17. If Nerissa's gills suddenly start vibrating, followed by a high-pitched ringing sound, filling the air as she inhales, quickly put the earplugs in your ears and back away from the water immediately. She's about to sing her song in its purest form. There's not a single creature that can hear this sound up close without being drawn towards it. 18. Nerissa will pay for the order with several shimmering hand-sized scales. She'll motion for you to come into the water to take them from her, but that won't be necessary. Nerissa will slowly get closer the longer you stay on the beach. By the time you go to get the payment from her, she'll almost be close enough to touch you. Tell her to toss the scales onto the beach and quickly collect them without taking your eyes off of her. 19. There's a good chance Nerissa will try to give you a few large calorie shells as a tip. Do not accept the shells. She can sense where they are at all times and can hear anything spoken around them. This is the most common way she gets our employees' names. 20. If Nerissa failed to enchant you, she'll probably come out of the water after paying in a last attempt to claim you. When she does, try not to let her physically touch you. Her skin contains an unusual toxin which can cause strong euphoria, as well as various hallucinations and mild numbness of the senses later on. She often attempts to hug people as a way of saying goodbye, then pulls them into the water as the toxins take effect. 21. Nerissa will also probably try to kiss you at least once. While letting her touch you at all is bad enough, absolutely do not let Nerissa kiss you. This is how she feeds. Her kiss can suck the life force right out of your body, along with many of your internal organs. 22. Do not turn your back on Nerissa as you leave. The creature might try to grab you if she thinks she'll have the element of surprise. 23. Once you're out of the neighborhood, pull over and check your clothing thoroughly. Nerissa's been known to hide calorie shells in people's pockets and clothing as they leave. Be very thorough. Several of our employees have found calorie shells in their clothes when Nerissa never even got close enough to touch them. Rules for dealing with the toxins. 1. If Nerissa managed to touch you, her toxins will begin taking effect on you shortly. While its effects will eventually fade on their own, they last for approximately an hour, getting more intense with every minute. Read the following rules to help deal with its influence. 2. Get back into your car and drive out of the neighborhood immediately after you were touched. The toxins initially only cause feelings of euphoria, which will make you hesitant to leave, but you must be out of the area within 20 minutes. After those first 20 minutes, your hands and limbs will begin to go numb, followed shortly by the appearance of mild hallucinations. It's best you get out of Cribble Rock Run before they take effect. You won't be able to drive in that state, making you an easy target for the neighborhood's inhabitants. 3. Once you're out of the neighborhood, find a safe place to pull over, pulling the car's emergency brake to be safe. As soon as the hallucinations begin, driving will be dangerous. Most of what you'll think you see will be nothing more than strong illusions. You'll quite likely find yourself swerving to miss things that aren't actually there. Worst yet, you won't be able to tell when things in front of you are actually real. 4. Try not to react to the hallucinations vocally in any way. While you should be safe from Cribble Rock Run's inhabitants on the side of the road, many of them have keen ears. Any unusual or frantic sounds will possibly draw their attention. 5. After about 35 minutes, your arms and legs will go completely numb, resulting in partial paralysis. Rest assured, however, that this is only temporary. It's meant to ensure that Nerissa's more persistent victims can't run from her, and should wear off in a few minutes after it began. However, the hallucinations will still persist for around 20 to 30 minutes. 6. While the numbing of your limbs is temporary, it's best you make sure the car doors are all locked before it takes effect. Heaven forbid anything tries to get into your car before it wears off. You won't be able to stop the intruder from opening the doors. 7. Never open your car doors no matter what you see. Whatever you think is out there, hopefully, is just a hallucination meant to lure you out of the car. If you do leave the car, The imaginary image will always try to lead you back to the source of the toxin itself, Nerissa. 8. You'll probably think a police officer has stopped by to check on you at one point. They'll instruct you to exit the vehicle, saying that they're taking you to the station. Do not fall for this. The police force around here doesn't patrol Cribble Rock Run. Listen to the officer, and they'll lead you right through the neighborhood and back down to Narissa's beach, assuming nothing else finds you before you get that far. 9. Do not be alarmed when your hands start twitching wildly. This is actually a good sign. The toxins are finally leaving your body. 10. Right as the toxins wear off, you'll most likely hear people you know screaming frantically in the distance. Again, ignore them. This is a last-ditch attempt to get you to chase the hallucinations back to Narissa. 11. After you fully recovered from the toxins, double check to make sure Nerissa didn't hide any calorie shells on you before driving away. Again, she is disturbingly skilled at hiding those shells in people's clothing. That should be everything you need to know about Nerissa. She's one of the pond's more troublesome inhabitants, thanks to her charming nature and entrancing song, as well as the main reason we don't send employees new to the neighborhood to Broken Hand Pond first. It's worth noting, however, that Nerissa isn't completely wicked, despite her method of feeding. She does genuinely enjoy people's company, only eating them as necessary means to stay alive. Narissa's kind cannot survive without draining life energy from other creatures. And believe it or not, every flirtatious comment she makes to you is actually genuine. She truly considers all people to be beautiful. And while she does quite literally suck the life out of her victims, Nerissa can't actually bring herself to part with any of them. Instead, she takes each of their remains and reshapes them, stretching the corpse and rolling it thin until it looks like a snake, then detailing it with gills and fins. In truth, each of the eels surrounding Nerissa is one of her precious victims, and despite what she's done to them, they love her just as much as she loves them. That said, we think many of the eels climb those rocks so much because they're trying to return to their old lives, only to be forced back to the pond instead so they can breathe. But of course, it's best if you don't sympathize with Narissa's eels in the slightest. If you do, you might end up keeping them company permanently. Sincerely, Rick and Nick Castillo.